And when you make the transition into the fourth density state, you will emerge on the other side of the singularity of ascension in possession of a new dimension of self. Because currently you exist in 4 dimensions, 3 of space, 1 of time. When you transition into the fourth density, you will exist in 5-dimensional ways. And the 5th dimension to who you are will be Hello and welcome to this week's channeling. First thing, please like, subscribe, share, comment. It's so important for me to continue to deliver these free each week. Also, if you haven't yet, I highly recommend that you get a copy of this book. I was literally just reading it before I started this video, because I pick it up sometimes. I'll just go to a random page and I'll just see what's there. And it is good stuff. It seems like it's such a strange thing for someone to do with their own book, but this is channeled material, so even for me, when I read it, I get stuff from it. So the link for this book is below this video, and on that page you'll find you can buy this as a paperback, as an audiobook, and also as an ebook. If you'd like to do a private channeling with me, that's also possible. If you look below, you'll see there is a link that takes you to a inquiry form. Fill out the inquiry, we'll start a conversation, and then we'll just see what happens from there. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. If you would like to donate just to help me keep the wheels turning here, then that's something which is possible. If you go below, you'll see there is a link going to PayPal, and there is also a link going to Subscribestar. And on to today's question. How have you been deceived by the darkness? This is a further development of some of the ideas that were in the channel I did maybe 2 or 3 ago, which was called, How is the Darkness Trying to Seduce You? And there was just one concept there which my guides would like to develop further. Greetings and thank you for the question. How have you been deceived by the darkness? We have decided to discuss this today because we would like to offer a different perspective to this idea of spirituality, where there is the spiritual spectrum, and one end is the darkness and one end is the light. Because moving into this new paradigm for the earth human requires that you make the transition via the singularity of ascension into the fourth density state. But prior to that, you must be in a state of readiness. You must be calibrated with the energetics of that event. And this necessitates that you release the darkness. You purge the darkness such that you can polarize into the light. And by polarizing into the light, you are becoming calibrated with the metaphysics, the energetic dynamics of the objective ascension event. And this purging of the darkness can be challenging. So, by offering a different perspective of how it can be understood, we are hoping and expecting that this will give you a deeper sense of understanding of yourself and what is occurring, so that it is easier done, meaning it's easier to purge the darkness. So, let us begin in this way. As we have said many times in our channeling sessions, you are the light and nothing but the light. This is because you are the one, and the one is love and light. The spectrum of light is peace, gratitude, happiness, joy, bliss, love. And of course, there are many artifacts and many more derivatives of that spectrum. But this is generally what you could say is the ladder or the spectrum or the steps of the light. So, these are the terms which can be used to describe the One in terms of what it is comprised of. Its energetic truth is the spectrum of light. And it had the desire to know itself to completion experientially, when prior to the creation of the all, it existed entirely as a concept. It knew itself conceptually to completion, but it had no knowledge of itself at all through experience. And therefore it wished to know itself to completion through experience. But existing as a singular concept, a singular entity, singular being, this precluded the capacity for experience, because for there to be experience, there needs to be more than one. There needs to be this and that and the gradient of conditions, of locations, of ways, and so on in between. So now there can be one thing observing another thing which it is separate from and saying, I am not that. And this is experience. And of course, experience becomes more complex when one thing can say, I am bigger than that, I am smaller than that, I am faster than that, I am wiser than that, I am sadder than that, and so on. This is experience. So, for the One to have an experience of itself, to know itself to completion through experience, and therefore to fulfill its purpose, then there needed to be a matrix where this could take place. But there is only one, the One. So, for there to be more than one, it must be illusory. It must be a non-reality, which is created just as a context, as a canvas, where this purpose can be fulfilled. And so it exploded itself into an infinitum of individuations. The illusion of more than one was created, and that context is the all. All spirit, all dimensions, all matter, all beings, including you. So, you are an illusory being that has been individuated from the One. You are literally the One, and therefore the constituent substance of the One is what you are also, because you are the One. You are the One playing with the illusion within this matrix of physicality, such that you can have the experience, because now there is you and there are other people, and there can be this experience, contrast, differentiation, and therefore the One knows itself more and more through experience. It is experiencing itself through you, through the unique perspective which is you. You are a proxy for the One because you are the One. And as you are the One, then you also are forged from the spectrum of light. You are love and light. You are peace. You are gratitude. You are happiness, joy, bliss, love. You literally are those things. That is what you are. In the most fundamental understanding of what you are the love and light of the One, because you are the One. So, this is very important to understand, because within your current incarnation as a human in the third density experience here on your planet, your entire species was birthed into creation in a state of spiritual dichotomy. And this spiritual dichotomy is really an artifact, or came about because when your species was birthed into creation, this occurred without the inherent knowledge that you are part of the One, that you are connected to the One, and therefore you're made from the same substance as the One. Now, for your species, this is very normal to not really know. You are aware of the concept that there is a God, that there is a Creator, that there is the One, but it is a philosophy. It is an allegory. It is some words that were written a very long time ago, and for many of you, not even sure that they are true. But understand, outside of your solar system, that is a very, 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 very rare condition. For a species to be birthed into creation with no immediate inherent recognition that they are connected to the One, that they are the One, and therefore they are forged from the same substance of the One. The way that it is done through all of creation is that when new species are birthed into creation, they are birthed into creation already in possession of this fundamental understanding that they are the One, and therefore they are love and light. And an extrapolation of that is that they are also connected to all other aspects of their special group, forming the singular being, the group being of many parts. And in the context of the Earth human experience, we are speaking of the humanity being. All of you form a group being, which is the humanity being. And when you make the transition into the fourth density state, you will emerge on the other side of the singularity of ascension in possession of a new dimension of self. Because currently you exist in 4 dimensions, 3 of space, 1 of time. When you transition into the fourth density, you will exist in 5-dimensional ways. And the 5th dimension to who you are will be unity. You will be the individual, and you will also be the group being. This will be your extra dimension, your 5th dimension, identifying as the group being. So, because your species has been birthed into creation, in fact, all sentient apex species which have emerged within your solar system, which is the confines of this very unique experiment, have done so without the possession of these fundamental understandings. And therefore, when one does not have possession of this knowledge and inherent knowing that they are connected to the One, and therefore they are love and light, then there is the necessity for discovering that that is the truth. And so for you to discover that you are the light and nothing but the light, then you must explore something which is not that, such that you can make the revelation, okay, I have 2 choices. I've realized I am not one of those choices. Therefore, I must be the other choice. And this is the spiritually dichotomous state. On the spiritual spectrum, one end is the light, one end is the darkness. Therefore, if you are not sure you are the light, you don't know you are the light, then this opens the possibility that you could contemplate and explore the concept that perhaps you are the darkness. So you will experiment with the darkness. You will adopt the darkness. You will behave from darkness. And then over many incarnations, increasingly you will recognize that when you behave from the darkness, when you are acting, speaking in a way which is invigorated or inspired by the darkness, that you will feel an incongruency. I don't like who I was just then. I don't like the way I behaved. I don't like that I just behaved without virtue. It doesn't feel right. I'm uncomfortable with that behavior from myself. Therefore, I'm going to make the decision, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to speak to other people that way anymore. I'm not going to lie like that anymore. I'm not going to cheat, steal, whatever it is that was inspired to be done by the darkness. Because I'm realizing that's just not me. So, what am I if I am not that? I am clearly the light, the other choice. I am the light. And then you begin to polarize to the light. And this is the realization. This is your spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening is the second awakening of the book which we co-authored with the channel. The 3 awakenings that save humanity. So, this concept we have just explained sounds very simple. And for you who is watching, perhaps you're at a state of your spiritual evolution where you are already in possession of this understanding. And so it seems very clear and simple to purge the darkness and start acting with greater and greater and greater virtue. However, this is because you are beginning to recognize this incongruency. And you're beginning to realize that when you behave with the darkness, you're not really being yourself. Because yourself, the true you from an energetic perspective, is love and light. But the darkness, for a very long time, has been deceiving you and deceiving all of humanity. So, this is something we're going to get to in a moment. But before we get there, let us just give an example which we have given many times, but this is a very good example to really clarify or really highlight this concept of being a spiritually dichotomous being. So, you have your enemy. You have some part of society which you feel threatens you, or you're very disturbed by their ideals and the things that they do. And so you have a very strong feeling against them. And so it could be said, or you could be heard to say, I hate those people. I hate their cultural way of being, or whatever it is. And yet, you could look at your own people, your own family, and you could say, I love those people. Clearly, this is a spiritually dichotomous state, because you are saying, I hate, and then you're saying, I love. So you are self-identifying with both ends of the spiritual spectrum. I hate, I love. I am angry, I am happy. I am sad, I am joyful. When you identify I and then something from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, you are identifying as the darkness. But, as we already described, you are the light and nothing but the light, because you are forged from the substance of the One, and the One is the light and nothing else. We say the love and the light, but the love is the highest point on the spectrum of the spiritual spectrum of light. So, why is it that you are identifying with something which isn't you? Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. Why do I say that? Why do I believe that I'm angry? Why do I believe I am sad? Why do I believe I hate those people if it isn't me? Well, this is because you have been deceived by the darkness. You may have heard this phrase before. The greatest trick the devil ever pulled is to convince the world that he doesn't exist. So, this is an excellent sentence to bring a perspective to this concept that you have been deceived by the darkness. Before we develop that further, let's add a little more granularity so that it can be more easily understood when we get there. The darkness isn't real, clearly, because what is real is the one, and the one is only the light. Therefore, it could be said that the lightness end of the spiritual spectrum is truth, and the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum is untruth, or it is non-light, it is absence of light. Because everything is relevant to the light, because the light is the only thing that is real. And so the darkness is illusory, it is just an absence of light. And it can't exist outside of the all, because outside of the all is only the one. Because there is only the one. So, as the darkness is part of the illusion, it cannot leave the illusion of the all, this matrix that was created by the one, such that it could fulfill its divine purpose, to know itself experientially. Then it cannot go through the typical continuation cycles which the light enjoys. So when beings, entities, come to the end of their physical life, the energy which has invigorated them, given them life, can leave physicality, go back into the light, and then be repurposed, reused, recycled, reincarnated back into the physical experience again. It can germinate. It can hatch. It can be born. And then there is this continuation where the light has left the physical and then returned back to the physical. However, the darkness cannot leave the illusion because it is endemic to the illusion. It is part of the illusion. It is illusory. So it cannot leave. Therefore, it must use a different continuation strategy. So, the continuation strategy that it uses, that it employs, is to transmit from host to host. So, this is to say that it attaches to the host. It attaches to, for example, your boss has had a very bad day and he gets very angry and he calls you into his office and he yells at you, screams at you, makes your life very difficult because he perceives that his difficult day was because of something that you did. And so he has just unloaded on you a great deal of energy which was inspired from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. And this has made you also begin to identify more heavily with the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. Now you are feeling depressed that your boss has treated you this way. Now you're feeling worried that perhaps you're going to get fired. And now you are fearful because if you are fired, how are you going to support your family? How are you going to pay your bills? And so now you are very much more intensely focused and identified in the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. And then you go home in this state of worry and anxiety, and you encounter your family, and you are very short-tempered. Your children wish to show you something they did at school, but you're very preoccupied. You want some moments to yourself so you can contemplate how you're going to deal with the situation. And your children are insistent that they want you to participate in what it is they are doing. And so you are very short with them, you're very abrupt with them. You speak to them in a way which you really don't like that you did. But you're kind of overwhelmed by this emotional state which is inspired from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. And so then your children start crying and become very sad. And they start contemplating childlike ideas which are clearly untrue, that perhaps daddy doesn't love me, mummy doesn't love me. And so now they also are identifying more potently with the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. And so this is how the darkness has continued. It has transferred from host to host to host. And across time, over many tens, thousands of hundreds of thousands of years, the darkness has continued to exist within humanity via mechanisms like this, where it does not leave and then incarnate back into the cycle of life, but instead transmits from host to host. It is a perpetual energy within the illusion of the matrix. But this is only possible if you believe that the darkness is you. That you actually are fearful. That you actually are sad. That you actually are angry. That you actually are depressed. Would you allow an parasitic energy to attach to you and make your life difficult and miserable and your relationships less functioning and your success more difficult to attain and so on, if you could clearly see it's not you? If you could clearly see this energy which is attached to me, which has made my life so much more difficult, is not me, it's just an energetic parasite attached to me, would you allow it to continue to be there and to continue to influence you in that way? Of course not. Of course not. Why would you allow that to go on? You would, as soon as possible, purge it from who you know yourself to be, so that you can return to functioning as and who you truly are. But what if that parasite could fool you into believing that it is actually you? So it's not an energetic parasite which is attached to you and making your life difficult and miserable. It's actually you. It's actually me. I'm the one who's depressed. I'm the one who's angry. I'm the one who's sad. Then you allow it to be part of your identity. Then you allow it to exist within you and to influence the way in which you navigate the world, you live your life, you treat others, you act in your day-to-day moments of your life. This is how the darkness has deceived you. It has fooled you into believing that it is you. You are it. But this absolutely is not the truth. You are the light and nothing but the light. And so, whenever you experience an emotional state which is from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, any emotional state which feels unpleasant, you are believing you are something which you are not. You are misconceiving of self. You are believing you are the darkness. But this is not true. This is actually not even possible. You can never be the darkness, but it is possible that you can misconceive of self and entertain the belief that you are the darkness, that you are the anger, you are the hate, you are the sadness. So, with this understanding, make the decision to no longer be deceived by the continuation strategy of the darkness. For the darkness to continue within you, you must continue to believe that it is you are it. But now you have a very rational and clear understanding that this is not the truth. So when you feel those emotional states which are incongruent and therefore uncomfortable, realize that you are misconceiving of self. You are not actually sadness. You are just believing that you are. And so you can make the choice. And we understand this is not as easy as it sounds. But if you are aware of this philosophical truth, then it is going to become much easier for you. So when you feel those incongruent emotional states, release them. Let them go. Let them no longer be part of your identity. And you will very naturally move deeper into the light. Because you are the light and nothing but the light, and always will be the light and nothing but the light. So this means even when you are in a very dark place, we are very deeply immersed in the energies from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. At your core, you are still the love and light of the One, because at your core, you are literally the One. And the darkness that you are immersed in is just a mind state, is a misconception of self which is layered over the truth. And so if you can scrape it away, then what is left is the revelation of self, that you are the light and nothing but the light. This is the concept of the 1,000-petal lotus representing awakening, spiritual realization. Because as each petal folds back, meaning that you release an identification with the darkness, you purge that from your identity. And so that is the petal folding back. It reveals what has always been hidden underneath. The eternal truth, which has always been present. And that is, under the petal is the heart of the flower. And the heart of you, your flower heart, is the light and nothing but the light. So now it becomes very easy to make this transition deeper and deeper and deeper into the light, and start conceiving of self in a more clarified and truthful way. When you are presented with the challenge of releasing some identification in the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, something has occurred in your life. For example, and it has made you intensely sad. And this intellectual concept of just letting go of the sadness, yet under those circumstances, like, how is that even done? This is such a tragedy in my life, and I'm expected to just release it as if it's meaningless? No, that is not what we're saying. But what we are saying is accept it is what it is. Your resistance to this new reality is the attachment site for the darkness. The darkness attaches to your resistance. It becomes the anchor point. And as long as you resist the new state of your reality, then you have a place where the darkness can attach. Because your resistance is, I really don't like that this is happening. I really don't like that this is my life now. I really cannot accept that this is the truth of my existence. And that is how the dark energy is able to remain part of your identity. Because that incongruent, that difficult feeling that you're having, because you cannot accept the state of your life, is what invites the darkness into your identity. But if you can accept that this is the new way that your life presents, it is what it is, then although you may have an initial wave or surge of sadness or some other energy from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum, because you are a highly emotional being, as all humans are. So this is not a deficiency. But it is a deficiency if you hang on to it. And it goes from hours to days to weeks to months, and you continue to be sad. This is when you are operating the device with an erroneous belief in how it should be used. If you can accept quickly, then the emotions, the scenario, the happening can pass through you and be released and no longer be contributing to your identity. And you can peacefully, tranquilly return to who you truly are, which is the light and nothing but the light. And this is why acceptance is so fundamental to the master's journey. Because when you master the art of accepting the conditions of your life, then all attachments for energies from the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum disappear from your composition. And all that is left is the energetic truth of who and what you actually are. You irradiate with the love and light of the One. And consequential to this, your life will begin to bring to you increasingly more and more circumstances which are metaphorical feedback on who you are being, because this is what your life experience is. It is a metaphor of your state of beingness. It is literal feedback data on who you are being. So if you are being your true self, which is the light and nothing but the light, then your life will reflect to you circumstances which are very conducive for you to continue to feel and be that way. And so, the opportunity to identify with the darkest end of the spiritual spectrum will increasingly diminish. And you will, as a result, transition deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the light. And exist more and more within the third density human experience as the being that you truly are, and will transition into once you have emerged from the singularity of ascension into the fourth density state. Let us conclude in this way. What we have discussed in this transmission and many of our recent transmissions is important work. And the fundamental distillation is purge the darkness and move deeper into the light. This is the realization of what you truly are, which will reach a state of completion once you have transitioned into the fourth density, where you will fully realize you are the light and nothing but the light. However, at this time, humanity is moving into a very challenging period of its existence. And you are going to be much better equipped to deal with what is ahead if you begin doing this work now, where you literally start making effort and steps and strides towards becoming the type of being which we continue to describe in these sessions, where you no longer identify with the darkness end of the spiritual spectrum. You have moved deeper into the light, and you exist and operate as a being of virtue, motivated by the light and nothing but the light. In that state, you are going to be much more adept at dealing with what lay ahead. If you find that you listen to these channelings and you find them to be very intriguing, which means you are sensing a resonance with your higher aspect because you recognize there is value to this for you. But despite sensing that resonance, that relevance, that connection with the message, you continue to live in the same way that you have in the past, out of habit, out of a reluctance to change, out of laziness to make the effort to begin living in a different way, then you are doing yourself a disservice. You are receiving the message which you're listening to now because you have manifested that into your existence. This is your reality reflecting back to you your state of beingness, meaning you are ready for this message. You are ready for this change. And so, begin living differently today. Thank you, and we love you.